I mean, what exactly is the grounds right now? You're saying that the governor shouldn't be in acting capacity as a deputy governor.
No, I never did say so. I mean, the Constitution provides for that.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that the Constitution did not anticipate a situation where, acting as a governor will be in perpetuity.
Okay, because this is already 10 months.
Yeah, this is already 10 months. This is just my contention.
Was there a limitation?
It is the right thing, it is the proper.
There's no
we now
limitation.
go to the issue of the lacuna that people are talking about. Because it is not a normal scenario. It could never have been anticipated by the framers of the Constitution.
Okay,
of
so
course,
what do you suggest that clause should be? Because if he didn't put a time frame to how long he can act, and he's not been away for, so far, he's not been away for the entire period of his tenure.
No, I mean, it has to be addressed. Obviously, it has to be made much more clear, much more explicit, so that, it cannot be subjected to the kind of interpretations that different people are giving it. Give a 2 months, 3 months time frame if the man is not capable. For instance, in the appointment of judges to the Supreme Court, the relevant sections of the Constitution, of the law that talks about appointment of judges, and so on and so forth, it tells you that, after 3 months, if a person that has been appointed to office has not assumed for whatever reason his appointment at that particular point in time.
There you go. You use the word yourself.
Yes, it will be deemed.
Appointed position.
You understand? No, it's an appointed position. This is an elected position.
No,
but the Constitution addresses it. He will be deemed to have forfeited that position.
No, but
and will no longer even be appointed back to that position, even by the man who appointed him in the very
Mr.
first
Chude,
place.
there are two different scenarios in the sense that, yes, one's an appointment, but it's even more important that, this person, you say, if the person has not assumed that position. Now, the governor had assumed his position. Does the Constitution also talk about, I mean, especially in the case of the judiciary, does it talk about when the person has assumed the position and is not well for whatever reason? Is there a room for that? Is there provision for that?
Yeah, there is a provision for that. And there should be a provision for that. Because the office of a governor is an important... So the office of a governor is a very, very important, office. And again, you have the man who is acting as governor, who should also be deputized, by somebody else too. So at what level? Now, what you have done is to also leave a lacuna, because the man is now acting also as governor. What happens to his office at that particular point in time?
What's the provision that you just talked about now in terms of what they provides?
Is there a time frame for the court?
No, what we're talking about.
She talked about the courts. You talked about the courts.
Yeah.
For a person who had never assumed. What about the person who was assumed?
By that statement, what I meant by that statement is that we make an inference from that statement.
No, but it doesn't state.
No, you make an inference from the statement that if this is the reason why this
inference
is done,
are subjected
and so you put a time frame because of the importance of the office.
But we're saying that that inference cannot be drawn here because we're saying that it's not as if the governor hasn't assumed his position. He has. He had an accident, and we all saw what happened.
Yeah.
Are we being fair? If you say we will put a time frame to it, are we going to be fair to say the governor, for instance? Because what most people will say is that might drive people to the end of desperation. Because if you say, give them 2 or 3 months to recover, or whatever it is that happens, if they don't recover in that period, then they lose the position.
If the law says a 3-month time frame for this to happen, the Constitution, for instance, says that, then it's clear, everybody knows. And there's no confusion. You understand? It is that state of...
Do you think that kind of framing will be fair on
anybody?
On elected public office
there is nobody
holders?
that has an office that is meant for that office forever. You understand? So because we are human beings, because we are frail, because of the unpredictability of human life and nature, things happen. People get sick. People die. What happens when that happens? Do you understand? Because the stakes are extremely very, very high. This is somebody whose every utterance, whose every action or inaction could impact on the lives of millions of people. Okay. Surely what happens to him should be of importance to the Constitution.
What do you expect of the State Assembly in this case?
Some people in the State Assembly have, I think, gone to court seeking for interpretation of this particular issue. Perhaps, and I want to know, and I believe that in fairness to these people who are also calling for perhaps the man to be removed, so that the acting governor becomes substantive governor. So in fairness to them, when this man took ill, a lot of people were concerned. For the first 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you could never talk about anybody assuming the position of substantive governor of that state. The very people now who are now going to court to ask for an interpretation would have been the first set of people to raise hell with you. But over time, there's also the issue of duty. And so when you talk about duty and you talked about loyalty and the rest, what does loyalty mean? Is it loyalty to the self? Is it loyalty to conscience, loyalty to state, loyalty to an individual? You see, it is when you begin to determine some of these things. And that's why in Nigeria, for instance, when a senator breaks rank with his political party, it is suicidal. But in other climes, a man out of conscience can break ranks with his political party. You see that at the floor of the United States Congress once in a while. And he tells you he does not, point fingers at the policies of his party and so on, but at the dictates of his conscience. And it is important at that particular point in time.
Can I quickly ask this question? You talked about, is it loyalty to the people or loyalty to a certain individual? The question would also be, for even those who are asking that, the acting governor be put in a substantive governor, is it because of loyalty to the people or loyalty for what they stand to gain? There are also questions to be weighed in that particular regard.
Yeah, I think sooner or later we are all brought to ask ourselves these questions, really. We can be selfish about the answers that we give. But a time comes when we must ask ourselves the truth about the Nigerian nation. Why is Nigeria not working? Is it because people have not been loyal to the state, or people have not been loyal to the people themselves, or people have not been loyal to their conscience? You understand? So, and I think that when a matter gets to this stage, people must begin to ask themselves, when you talk about duty, to whom do I owe duties over this particular matter? The people of Taraba State or the governor whose state of affairs we are not sure of? You see, that is the issue, the state of uncertainty. If the people are convinced that their governor is in very good health or is going to come back in very good health.
That is why I asked the question about the state assembly, because we thought the provision in the constitution should have actually been, activated, asking the medical officer of the governor, as well as some of these people, to ascertain if truly he's medically fit to continue in office.
You and I know the nature of the Nigerian state today. I mean, the issue is that, and you cannot, the country has been captured. It's as simple as that. I mean, those who determine the fate of this country are not doing it on the basis of the hopes and aspirations of 160 million people. That is why Nigeria is the way it is. That is why people are collecting stupendous, salaries in a country.
Because when we talk about the Constitution, it doesn't look like the Constitution really can't help us in this case, because with those sections of the Constitution, that section of the Constitution will really can actually fix this situation in Taraba State.
Exactly what we're saying. It's not about the Constitution. I mean, the Constitution is being violated everywhere in this country, and nothing really happens. And I think that goes to the heart of the political problems we're having in this country, and the instability in Nigeria. The fact that the people themselves have not educated themselves or have not been sufficiently enlightened, they are not politically matured enough to understand the dynamics and the stakes, in this country. When they do that, they will be much more involved. And once they are much more involved, the politicians will have a much harder day to sell themselves to the people, because the people would have been made aware of the dynamics of government and what is expected of them as a people, and those people who are also presiding over their own affairs.